The next speaker will be Mark Gaydos.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Gaydos. I'm Senior Director of U.S. Regulatory Affairs Marketed Products at sanofi-aventis. And I'd like to thank the FDA for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the Social Media Working Group, specifically about practical approaches for the pharmaceutical industry's engagement in online communities or social media in a compliant manner. Before I start, I just wanted to say that although I don't plan on going into a long discussion of the reasons why the pharmaceutical industry should be engaging in online communities, I think the fact that we're here at a two-day public hearing is proof of the recognition that the industry should be engaged. It's just really a matter of how. And as we know, more and more health-related conversations are happening online. So it's important for the industry to be engaged in these conversations and discussions so that they're aware and understand and can meet the needs of both patients and healthcare professionals. Just a little bit about the Social Media Working Group itself. It is a voluntary group of regulatory affairs professionals who convened, and it is made up of professionals from 5 different companies, and they're listed here. Leah Palmer from Amgen, Preeti Pinto and Stacy Reese from AstraZeneca, Paul Savage and Sarah Stoltz from Bristol Myers Squibb, Cindy Phillips at Millennium Pharmaceuticals, and then Craig Audette and myself from Sanofi-aventis US. And really the reason this group convened was to engage and initiate a dialogue with the FDA and specifically with DDMAC on the regulatory issues pertaining to the pharmaceutical industry's engagement in online social media. We know it's a difficult area to navigate for both the regulated and the regulators, and we wanted to try to advance that conversation. But it is also important to note that each participating company here does remain free to have independent opinions about the issues that are presented in this presentation. Now, I don't plan on reading through all of these definitions. I'm pretty sure everybody that's here understands what an online community is and a posting. But I would like to draw attention to the distinction between company site and third-party site. And when I refer to a company site, it's really, as has been stated, I think, by others, including Craig, company site is really under the control of a pharmaceutical company for purposes of this discussion. But it can also pertain to content maintained or created by the company on a hosted third-party site, hosted on a third-party site. So a company might have a disease channel or a product-specific channel on YouTube or a page on MySpace. But that content is generally largely controlled by the company, even though it's hosted on a third-party site. Whereas a third-party site truly is under the control of that third party and independent of the pharmaceutical company. Just a general consideration I'd like to highlight, just so it's understood before we go into scenarios here. That content created by the company, posted by the company in online communities that discusses and promotes specific products obviously is required to comply with the applicable regulations. And those include, but may not be limited to, things such as the communication of the approved indications for the product, providing an appropriate balance of risk and benefit information, delivering information that is truthful, not misleading, and consistent with the U.S. prescribing information approved by the FDA, and also that access to that prescribing information is provided. First, I'm going to talk about company sites or communities before I go into third parties. And when the Social Media Working Group was considering this scenario, specifically company communities that are hosted by a company specifically, we really felt that it was important to have site-specific terms of use. In addition to terms of use that are probably already part of most internet sites that companies have, this would be site-specific, and it would really lay out the purpose of the site. And it would also ask participants or visitors to that site to acknowledge these terms and to agree to comply with them if they are to participate. And also to communicate to participants in the community that as a regulated entity, a company is going to monitor the site and will ensure that these terms of use are being observed. Specific to an unbranded site, let's say a company sponsoring a blog on diabetes, on heart disease. For this non-promotional type of site, it would be important to disclose in these terms that the site is really not intended for discussing specific products. Otherwise, there's the potential that it brands what was an unbranded site. And that posts that do mention products may be subject to removal. But at the same time, providing contact information so that folks that do want to discuss a product, find out information about a product, can from the appropriate company representative. A little bit trickier is for product-related sites. Should a company choose to host an online community devoted to a specific product, we felt that would be very important to, in terms of discouraging off-label comments, to indicate that the site is intended strictly for discussion of approved uses of the FDA-approved product, and that those indications be provided and identified, and that postings that do veer off-label may be subject to removal. And again, providing appropriate contact information, whether that be customer service for specific product questions, medical information for off-label questions. Now, I know tomorrow morning is devoted strictly to adverse event reporting, so I'm not going into any long-winded discussion of it, but when we were looking at potential terms of use for online communities hosted by a company, we felt it was important to not only notify members of that community or participants that the site is not intended for reporting side effects, but to provide the appropriate contact information that they could do that, whether it's the company itself or the FDA's own MedWatch contact information. And for me, this is sort of the heart of the matter. I know someone earlier mentioned that adverse event reporting is the beat noir of online communities for pharmaceutical industry. I would argue that off-label, concerns about off-label use are at least as concerning. And first, I'm going to look at specific scenarios where we're talking about unsolicited questions that are posed on a company-sponsored site. And similar to what happens in the offline world, I think in this case, we feel it's important that the company's medical staff field and respond to these types of questions. They're trained to do so in an appropriate non-promotional manner. And that above and beyond that, that the company informs the community when such a question is posted within the community, that the question pertains to an off-label use, and then that be forwarded to the appropriate department in the company, usually it's a medical information department, or that the contact information is provided to the requester so they can make that contact themselves. But importantly, we feel it's appropriate that the company retains not only that initial post that included the off-label question, but also the company's acknowledgement in response to that. That way it ensures that off-label question is not existing on the site unresponded to and unacknowledged.